It all started on an ordinary night, when a group of astronomers in a remote observatory noticed something unusual. The sky was quiet, calm, and filled with familiar stars, but one signal caught their attention. It wasn't like the usual cosmic noise they often ignored. This one was different. It was organized, precise, and almost deliberate, as if someone or something was trying to speak directly to them. At first, they thought it might be a technical error, a glitch in their instruments. They double-checked, triple-checked, but the signal persisted. Its rhythm, its sequence, everything suggested intelligence. This was no natural phenomenon. This was a message. The moment the scientists realized what they were hearing, they froze in disbelief. Some whispered to each other, unable to fully comprehend what this could mean. The idea that humanity might be receiving a real message from an intelligent alien species felt impossible. Yet there it was. The signal was not just a sound or light. It carried patterns and repetitions that indicated urgency. It seemed to say without words, "We need help." News of the discovery spread slowly at first. The observatory contacted other space agencies around the world, and soon major governments were involved. Scientists and diplomats gathered in emergency meetings trying to understand the message and its implications. Everyone knew that if this was really a plea from an alien civilization, it could change humanity forever. Some were excited, imagining the possibilities of interstellar friendship and shared knowledge. Others were scared, worrying about the unknown intentions of beings from another star system. As experts analyzed the data, a clearer picture emerged. The signal originated from a region of space far beyond our solar system, where nothing human had ever reached. The source appeared to be a fleet of alien ships, large and massive, each one struggling against a powerful gravitational field. The fleet was trapped, unable to move freely, as if caught in an invisible net. The aliens' technology, advanced as it was, could not free them on their own. And the message they sent was a direct request for help. Humanity was faced with a dilemma. This was the first contact with an intelligent extraterrestrial species, and it came not as a greeting, but as a call for help. Governments debated what to do. Some leaders argued it was too dangerous to interfere. They warned that helping an alien fleet could be a trap, that humanity might be inviting destruction from an unknown power. Others saw it as a historic opportunity, a chance to show compassion and bravery on a cosmic scale. People around the world watched these debates unfold, their imaginations ignited by the thought of beings from another world in need of rescue. Meanwhile, scientists and engineers quietly began to prepare. They examined the physics of the trap, the gravitational forces, the positions of the alien ships, and the possible ways to pull them free. For weeks, teams worked tirelessly, running simulations and building prototypes of rescue technology. They developed complex propulsion systems, energy shields, and devices designed to manipulate gravity. Ordinary citizens followed these developments with awe, sharing news stories, sketches, and theories on social media. Everyone wanted to be a part of this unprecedented moment in human history. Amid all this preparation, the human crew selected for the mission faced their own challenges. They were ordinary people with extraordinary responsibility. Each member had been trained for space travel, engineering, and communication, but nothing in their experience prepared them for this. They had to understand not only human science, but also the possibility of alien technology far beyond anything Earth had seen. Every day brought new lessons and new fears. Some nights they would lie awake, imagining the trapped fleet, wondering what the aliens looked like, what kind of lives they led, and how they might react to humans entering their world. At the same time, the aliens' situation grew more desperate. The fleet's energy reserves were running low, and life support systems were under stress. The signals they sent became more urgent, more pleading, almost as if they could sense that help was taking too long to arrive. Humanity watched in real time as patterns in the signal shifted, signs of distress, confusion, and hope intertwined. It became clear that the aliens had endured days, perhaps weeks, of being trapped in this dangerous region of space, powerless to free themselves. As humans studied the signals, they discovered something remarkable. Despite the aliens' advanced technology, their struggle was relatable. Their fear, their frustration, their desperate hope mirrored human emotions. Scientists realized that in this moment, across the vastness of space, there was a connection between the two species. It was a moment of empathy that transcended distance, language, and biology. Humans were not just observers of the universe. They were participants in a story that spanned light years. The news spread to the public and reactions were mixed. Some were inspired, seeing this as a chance for humanity to rise above petty differences and show courage. Others were anxious, afraid that reaching out could provoke unknown consequences. Yet as the days passed, a sense of unity began to form. People donated resources, volunteered for scientific research, and shared messages of encouragement. Children drew pictures of alien ships and astronauts, while artists created murals imagining the rescue mission. The world, for the first time in a long time, seemed to be looking outward together. Inside the observatories and mission control centers, scientists worked around the clock. They devised a plan to send a rescue team across the void of space using the fastest propulsion systems ever built. The technology was experimental, the risks enormous, but the humans involved were determined. They communicated constantly, checking calculations, testing equipment, and preparing for every possible scenario. Every small success brought a wave of relief and renewed hope. Every setback was a reminder of the stakes, the lives, human and alien, hanging in the balance. Meanwhile, communication with the aliens continued. Patterns in the signal suggested intelligence beyond human comprehension. The aliens shared glimpses of their world through encoded messages, descriptions of massive starships, of civilizations built on distant planets, of societies that thrived in harmony with advanced technology. Humans listened carefully, learning not just the mechanics of rescue, but the culture, values, and hopes of a civilization completely unknown until now. With each new discovery, the mission became more than a technical challenge. It became a shared story, a bridge between two intelligent species facing a moment of crisis together. The night before the rescue mission was set to launch, the human crew gathered in the observatory. They looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, the trapped fleet waited. There was fear, yes, but also a deep sense of responsibility and pride. They were about to enter history, to make contact not as conquerors or invaders, but as helpers. Every calculation, every test, every sleepless night had led to this moment. And as they prepared for the journey, the entire world seemed to hold its breath, united in hope that humanity's courage could reach across the stars and answer a plea that had traveled light years. In that moment, the story of humanity's first interstellar rescue was no longer just about technology or strategy. It was about empathy, about the choice to act with courage when faced with the unknown. The signal from the aliens had started as a simple call for help, but it had become a beacon, drawing humans into a shared destiny with beings they had never met. And as the crew prepared to leave Earth, the message was clear. In a universe so vast and mysterious, the most important strength of any civilization is the willingness to help those in need. The countdown began. Lights flickered in mission control, monitors displayed the positions of the ships, and the crew checked their suits and equipment one final time. Outside, the world watched in silent anticipation. The trapped fleet, waiting in the darkness of space, sent out one last wave of signal, a pulse of hope that humanity had heard. And then, as the engines roared to life, humanity took its first step toward another civilization, toward a rescue that no one would forget, toward a story that would change the way the universe looked at Earth forever. After the first signal was understood, humanity faced a challenge unlike anything before. Leaders, scientists, and the public debated what to do. Some politicians argued that helping the trapped alien fleet was too risky. They warned that these beings were unknown, possibly hostile, and humanity could be walking straight into a trap. There were fears that a single mistake could trigger a chain of events that would endanger Earth, but others saw a different side. They argued that this was a unique moment, a chance to show courage and compassion on a scale never imagined. Helping a civilization trapped in danger, even one so far away, could demonstrate humanity's potential for greatness. It could be the first step toward peaceful relationships beyond Earth. Slowly, the voices of hope grew louder. Experts explained that the aliens had sent clear signals of distress, not threats. There was no aggression, only fear and the need for help. While debates continued, scientists and engineers didn't wait. They began working day and night to devise a plan. They studied the gravitational forces that held the alien fleet in place, analyzed their energy signatures, and tried to understand the physics of the trap. They designed equipment that could stabilize the ships, pull them free, and protect them from the dangers of deep space. For every step forward, there were countless tests, simulations, and corrections. One error could ruin everything. At the same time, the people chosen for the mission started training. They were ordinary humans selected for intelligence, skill, and resilience. They practiced navigating spacecraft in zero gravity, handling emergencies, and repairing advanced systems under pressure. But this mission was unlike any they had ever prepared for. They didn't know exactly what to expect from the alien fleet or the traps around it. The unknown was immense, but so was their determination. They were determined to succeed, knowing that lives hung in the balance. The world watched with a mixture of fear and hope. Citizens followed news updates and live broadcasts from observatories. Children drew pictures of spaceships and aliens. Artists imagined what the trapped fleet might look like and shared their visions online. Social media exploded with messages of support, prayers, and encouragement. People began to feel connected to this mission in a way that went beyond politics or borders. Humanity was united, focused on one goal: to help those in need, even if they were light years away. Amid this excitement, engineers faced a constant challenge. The technology required for the rescue did not exist yet. They needed to create devices capable of manipulating gravity and space, systems that could work in extreme conditions, and communication methods that could connect humans with aliens. It was a race against time. Every moment counted, because the alien fleet's energy reserves were limited and their life support systems were weakening. Humanity's ability to help depended on speed, skill, and creativity. As the plan took shape, humanity also had to consider how to communicate with the aliens once the rescue mission began. Scientists studied the patterns in the signals, searching for a universal way to translate meaning. It was a painstaking process, like learning a language without a shared alphabet. Slowly, they discovered that some patterns were emotional rather than technical. The aliens were afraid, desperate, and hopeful. They wanted help, but they also wanted reassurance that humanity would not harm them. Understanding these emotions became as important as understanding the physics of the rescue. The political debates, though intense, began to shift. Leaders started to realize that helping the alien fleet could also be a message to the universe. Humanity could act with intelligence, courage, and empathy. Committees were formed to coordinate resources. Engineers, pilots, scientists, and communicators worked together more closely than ever. Even rival countries put aside differences, sharing knowledge and technology. It was a rare moment in history when humanity acted as a single team. Meanwhile, ordinary people contributed in small but meaningful ways. Students designed experiments to test materials for the mission. Volunteers helped build models and simulations. Technicians worked long hours to ensure that every piece of equipment would function perfectly. Everywhere, people felt part of something bigger than themselves, something that could change humanity forever. This mission was not just about science. It was about hope, courage, and the power of collective effort. The aliens, for their part, sent signals that humans could barely interpret at first. Patterns in the messages suggested worry and confusion, but also patience and intelligence. They described their situation, how their ships were trapped in a gravitational field they could not escape, and how time was running out. Every signal became a lesson for humans, revealing more about alien technology and thinking. Slowly, a fragile connection began to form. It was not friendship yet, but a bridge of understanding built on the shared desire for survival. The human crew selected for the mission spent hours preparing mentally as well as physically. They studied alien signals, practiced communicating with hypothetical responses, and trained for emergencies they could not predict. Anxiety was high. They knew that if the mission failed, the consequences would be catastrophic, not just for the aliens, but also for humanity's reputation and future in space. Yet each crew member also felt a deep sense of purpose. They were not soldiers or explorers. They were helpers. Their mission was to save lives, to reach out across the galaxy and show that humans could be trustworthy allies. As days passed, the rescue plan became more detailed. Humans would approach the trapped fleet carefully, using a combination of propulsion, stabilizers, and protective shields. Every move was calculated to minimize risk. The aliens' positions, orientations, and energy levels were studied repeatedly. Humans practiced each maneuver, simulated failures, and tested backup systems. It was exhausting work, but every small success brought relief and hope. The mission was dangerous, yes, but it was possible. Outside the scientific and political world, public fascination grew. The news described every step in simple terms, allowing people everywhere to follow along. Families gathered to watch updates. Children asked questions about aliens and space, dreaming of one day becoming part of such missions. Artists, writers, and filmmakers began imagining the possibilities of life beyond Earth. In a way, the rescue mission had already changed humanity, inspiring curiosity, creativity, and courage in millions of people. Despite the preparation, fear never entirely disappeared. The human crew worried constantly. They knew that once they left Earth, there would be no immediate help if something went wrong. Communication would be delayed due to the vast distances of space. Every decision had to be precise, every maneuver perfect. Yet alongside the fear was excitement, a deep, almost spiritual recognition that they were participating in history. They were humanity's first responders to another civilization's distress, and the weight of that responsibility was both terrifying and inspiring. As the day of the mission drew near, scientists and engineers made final checks. They confirmed the spacecraft's engines, navigation systems, and communication arrays. They ran through simulations one last time. They made adjustments to account for any unexpected behavior from the aliens, unpredictable gravitational fluctuations, or equipment malfunctions. The mission depended on every detail being perfect, and humans had learned to trust one another's skills, creativity, and judgment. Finally, the public waited with bated breath. Millions of people around the world gathered around screens and radios, following the countdown. Social media filled with encouragement, prayers, and messages of hope. Everyone wanted the aliens to be safe. Humanity had become united, not by politics or borders, but by empathy. It was a reminder that even in the vast universe, connection mattered, and that courage could bridge the distance between worlds. The night before departure, the human crew looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the trapped fleet waited. The aliens did not know exactly who was coming to help, but they could sense the presence of other minds, other hearts willing to take risks to save them, and humanity, in turn, felt a profound responsibility to show that they were capable of empathy, courage, and intelligence beyond conflict. The stage was set. The rescue mission was no longer a plan. It was about to become a story of hope, collaboration, and the power of human determination. It was not just a technical challenge anymore. It had become a symbol of what humanity could achieve when united by purpose. Every calculation, every test, and every sleepless night led to this moment. And as humans prepared to leave Earth, they knew that the coming days would test their skills, their courage, and their hearts in ways they had never imagined. But they also knew something else, that reaching out across the stars to help those in need was worth every risk, every sacrifice, and every moment of fear. This was humanity's chance to shine, not as conquerors, not as explorers seeking glory, but as helpers, as beings capable of reaching out to another civilization in distress. And in the quiet moments before the journey, as the world held its collective breath, one truth was clear. Sometimes, the most extraordinary achievements of a species are not measured by technology or power, but by empathy, courage, and the willingness to help when it matters most. The preparations for the rescue mission had reached their final stage. Spacecraft were ready, engineers had tested every system countless times, and the human crew had undergone intensive simulations. Every move had been planned, every possibility considered, but there was still one reality everyone understood. Space is unpredictable. No amount of planning could erase the uncertainty, the risk, or the fear. And yet the excitement of what lay ahead gave the crew a quiet determination. They were about to make first contact in the most extraordinary way possible, by offering help to beings who had never known humanity. Training had been intense. For months, the crew practiced responding to emergencies, repairing critical systems under extreme pressure, and maneuvering in zero-gravity environments. They worked with simulators that mimicked the conditions of deep space, including the gravitational trap that had caught the alien fleet. Every drill was designed to prepare them for the unimaginable. They did not know what the aliens would look like, how they would respond, or whether their presence would frighten the trapped beings. The unknown weighed on them, but it also strengthened their resolve. Engineers and scientists continued to refine the technology for the mission. Gravity stabilizers, propulsion systems, and shields were tested under conditions harsher than anyone had experienced before. The goal was not just to reach the alien fleet, but to safely extract them from a trap that had resisted even their advanced technology. Every detail mattered. One miscalculation could endanger both the human team and the aliens. Despite the immense pressure, the teams worked tirelessly, driven by the knowledge that lives depended on their work. The public followed every development closely. For the first time in history, the world watched as humans prepared to engage with a completely unknown civilization. Families gathered around screens to learn about the mission. Children asked endless questions about aliens in space. Artists painted visions of the trapped fleet, while writers imagined the conversations humans might have with beings from another world. Even those who lived far from science or space technology felt connected. The mission had become a shared story for humanity, a symbol of hope, courage, and curiosity. As the spacecraft approached the edge of the gravitational trap, tension inside the human crew grew. Sensors detected the first signs of the trapped fleet. Massive shapes loomed in the distance, barely visible but unmistakably real. The ships were enormous, their designs unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Some seemed sleek and aerodynamic, while others appeared industrial and heavily armored. All of them, however, shared one unmistakable characteristic. They were struggling. Energy pulses flickered across their surfaces, indicating stress and exhaustion. Humans watched in awe, realizing that these beings, despite their advanced technology, were vulnerable. Communication with the aliens became the next challenge. Signals had to be translated in real time, and humans had to carefully choose every action to avoid frightening them. Initially, the aliens reacted with caution. Their sensors detected the approaching spacecraft, and their signals reflected curiosity mixed with anxiety. Humans responded slowly and carefully, sending simple messages to show that they came in peace and intended to help. The process was delicate. One wrong move, one misinterpreted signal could cause panic or even aggression. The first closer scans revealed details about the alien ships. Some had engines glowing dimly, barely able to maintain stability. Others had damage to their outer structures from prolonged exposure to the gravitational trap. Humans realized how desperate the situation truly was. The fleet had been trapped for days, maybe weeks, and they had already expended much of their energy trying to escape. Every moment counted. The mission was no longer theoretical. It was a race against time. Inside the human spacecraft, the crew coordinated with engineers and scientists on Earth. Data streamed in continuously, showing energy levels, positions, and structural integrity of the alien ships. Adjustments were made in real time, carefully calculating how to use gravity stabilizers to pull each ship free. The process required patience and precision. The human crew held their breath as they executed each maneuver, knowing that even a small error could have catastrophic consequences. Despite the danger, there were moments of wonder. The crew saw the alien ships up close for the first time. They marveled at the technology, the design, and the sheer scale of the fleet. Some ships emitted soft glows, while others had complex patterns etched into their surfaces. Humans could sense intelligence in every movement, an organization and sophistication that was both inspiring and humbling. It was clear that these beings had achieved incredible feats of engineering and cooperation, even before becoming trapped. Over time, a tentative communication began to form. The aliens responded to simple gestures, showing recognition and trust. Humans sent visual signals, light pulses, and energy patterns that the aliens could interpret. Slowly, understanding grew. The aliens expressed relief, and their signals became less frantic and more structured. Humans began to understand that for the first time in weeks, the fleet had hope. The human presence was a lifeline, and that realization deepened the sense of responsibility on both sides. As the rescue operation progressed, the human crew faced unexpected challenges. Some ships were more fragile than predicted, requiring delicate adjustments to avoid further damage. Others were caught in stronger gravitational pockets, making extraction more difficult. The crew had to improvise using both technology and intuition. Teamwork became essential, not just among humans but also in collaboration with the alien signals, which now seemed to respond to human actions in real time. Every small success was celebrated quietly, knowing that failure could be devastating. Humans watched as the alien fleet began to move more freely. The first signs of relief appeared as energy pulses stabilized and ships regained partial control. Signals from the aliens became more frequent and organized, almost like messages of gratitude. It was a silent conversation, full of meaning that went beyond words. Humans realized that they were not just rescuing a fleet. They were building a bridge between species, creating trust that might last for generations. Outside the spacecraft, the vastness of space felt both beautiful and dangerous. Stars twinkled in the distance, distant galaxies glowed faintly, and the gravitational trap loomed as an invisible force holding the alien fleet. The human crew could feel the tension in the air, the weight of responsibility pressing on them. Every maneuver required focus, patience, and courage. Yet amid the tension there was a quiet sense of awe. Humans were witnessing a moment that no one had ever experienced before. First contact, first rescue, first shared triumph across the stars. The operation required constant communication with Earth. Teams monitored data, suggested corrections, and provided support. Engineers worked tirelessly, adjusting stabilizers and propulsion systems. Scientists calculated energy outputs and gravitational forces with precision. Back on Earth, mission control was filled with the hum of activity. With hundreds of people monitoring every detail, knowing that the fate of an entire alien fleet rested on their calculations. Even the smallest victories brought relief and hope. When a single ship finally broke free from a gravitational pocket, the human crew felt a surge of pride and accomplishment. The ship's energy stabilized, its systems began to recover, and signals from the aliens reflected joy and relief. For the first time, humans realized that their efforts were making a tangible difference. The mission was not just theoretical, it was working. As the fleet slowly regained freedom, humans began to notice patterns in the aliens' behavior. They appeared highly cooperative, communicating with each other through complex signals that synchronized movements and shared information. Humans understood that this was a civilization built on collaboration, much like their own efforts in the rescue mission. Observing this coordination gave humans a deeper appreciation of intelligence beyond their own species and a sense of connection that was hard to describe. Despite progress, the mission remained risky. Some ships were still trapped in stronger gravitational zones, requiring careful adjustments and innovative solutions. The human crew had to balance speed with caution, knowing that rushing could endanger lives. They worked in silence, focused entirely on the task. Yet every glance at the stars reminded them of the beauty and fragility of life in the universe. Finally, after hours of careful maneuvering, significant progress was made. Multiple ships were freed from the strongest gravitational pockets, and the fleet began to move as a unit. Signals from the aliens reflected relief and gratitude. Humans felt a sense of accomplishment, tempered by the understanding that the mission was not yet complete. There were still ships to save, but the hardest part, the initial contact and first extractions, had been successfully completed. The human crew experienced a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. Their hands were tired, their eyes strained, but their hearts were full. They had crossed the void of space, made first contact, and begun to rescue a civilization in distress. For the first time, humans realized the full magnitude of what they were doing. This was not just a mission. It was a story of courage, intelligence, empathy, and trust. It was proof that even across unimaginable distances, beings could. As the human spacecraft moved closer to the trapped fleet, the crew could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them. For weeks they had trained, planned, and prepared for this mission, but nothing could have fully prepared them for seeing the alien ships up close. They were massive, intricate, and unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Some had smooth, reflective surfaces, while others seemed layered with complex geometric patterns. Energy pulses ran along the hulls like veins, glowing faintly in the darkness of space. The fleet was alive in a way that humans could sense but not fully understand. Communication had been limited so far, mostly signals, pulses and patterns that the aliens used to indicate distress or basic responses. But now, as the spacecraft approached within closer range, the crew prepared for the next stage: direct interaction. Scientists had created devices to translate the signals into forms humans could understand, and simple visual displays were set up to convey meaning back to the aliens. It was a delicate process, balancing clarity with caution, making sure every gesture or pulse would be recognized as a sign of help rather than threat. The first attempt at closer interaction was tense. The human crew sent a signal designed to indicate peace, using a combination of light pulses and energy waves. For a moment, nothing happened. The ships remained still, seemingly frozen. Inside the spacecraft, the crew held their breath. They watched every monitor, every sensor, waiting for any sign that the aliens had received the message. Then slowly a response came. A series of pulses, rhythmic and clear, indicated acknowledgement. It was the first time the aliens seemed to understand that humans were there to help. The relief on the human crew's faces was palpable. Weeks of preparation, countless calculations, and hours of mental strain were suddenly validated. The aliens were aware of them, and more importantly, they were not hostile. Over the next few hours, the communication grew more complex. The humans learned to send sequences of pulses to suggest actions, such as moving closer, stabilizing positions, or preparing for extraction. The aliens responded with patterns that indicated understanding, and in some cases, cooperation. It was a breakthrough that no one on Earth could have predicted. Inside the human spacecraft, the atmosphere shifted. Tension gave way to cautious excitement. Crew members communicated quietly, planning the next steps. They knew that this was no longer just a rescue. It was a collaboration. Humans and aliens were working together for the first time. Two intelligent species overcoming fear and uncertainty to achieve a common goal. Every pulse, every signal, every movement became part of a conversation that transcended language, culture, and even biology. As the rescue progressed, the human crew noticed patterns in the aliens' behavior. Certain ships seemed more hesitant, their signals slower or more irregular, as if the crew of those ships were anxious or unsure. Others responded immediately, synchronizing their movements with the humans' instructions. It became clear that, like humans, the aliens had personalities, decision-making styles, and emotions that influenced their actions. The realization was profound. This was not just machinery or automated systems. These were intelligent, aware beings capable of fear, hope, and cooperation. The first coordinated extraction began cautiously. Using the gravity stabilizers, the human crew guided one of the smaller alien ships out of a strong gravitational pocket. The ship responded, moving in synchronization with the stabilizers. Sensors monitored every system, alerting humans to potential stress points or energy fluctuations. The alien ship's signals became steady and rhythmic, almost as if it were expressing relief. The crew on the human spacecraft felt a quiet sense of pride. They were saving lives, and for the first time they could see the tangible impact of their efforts. With each ship freed, confidence grew. The aliens began to adjust their own systems, following subtle suggestions from the human crew. This was more than cooperation. It was understanding. Humans were no longer just rescuers, they were partners. Together, they moved larger ships, coordinated maneuvers, and avoided dangerous zones of gravity that had previously trapped the fleet. The process was slow, meticulous, and exhausting, but progress was undeniable. Outside the spacecraft, the scene was breathtaking. The trapped fleet had once been motionless, a collection of helpless ships at the mercy of the gravitational trap. Now they moved with purpose, slowly regaining freedom. Light reflected off their surfaces, casting faint glows across space, and the rhythm of their energy pulses seemed almost musical. The human crew could feel the significance of the moment, not just a technical achievement, but a demonstration of trust and mutual reliance across species. Inside the human spacecraft, the crew monitored every signal, ready to respond to any unexpected changes. At times, a ship would hesitate or move unpredictably, and the crew had to adjust immediately. These challenges tested their skills, patience, and intuition. Yet with each small success, the bond between humans and aliens deepened. The aliens were learning to respond to human signals, and humans were learning to interpret the nuances in alien communication. It was a learning process for both sides, and every interaction brought new understanding. The humans realized that the aliens' technology, while advanced, relied heavily on coordination and teamwork. Systems that seemed mechanical at first were, in fact, extensions of the alien crew's intentions and decisions. Observing this, humans adjusted their approach. Instead of simply giving instructions, they began to suggest actions in a way that allowed the aliens to participate actively. The effect was immediate. Ships moved more smoothly, energy usage became more efficient, and the extraction process accelerated. Humans had learned that collaboration, not control, was the key. As the hours passed, communication grew more sophisticated. Humans discovered ways to convey gratitude, reassurance, and encouragement. They could sense the aliens' relief and cautious optimism. The fleet began to move as a semi-coordinated unit, responding to both human guidance and their own instincts. It was a sight that no human could have imagined months earlier, a partnership of species, separated by light years, working together to overcome a life-threatening situation. Back on Earth, scientists and mission control followed every development with rapt attention. Data streamed continuously, showing energy levels, positions, and signals from the alien fleet. Engineers adjusted stabilizers, propulsion systems, and shields in real time, responding to the changing conditions of the rescue operation. Observers marveled at the collaboration unfolding in space, a demonstration not just of technology, but of empathy, intelligence, and trust. The human crew felt the weight of history pressing down on them. They were no longer merely explorers or technicians. They were ambassadors, lifelines, and witnesses to something extraordinary. Every successful maneuver reinforced the idea that empathy and courage could bridge even the greatest distances. Every pulse of energy, every synchronized movement of the fleet was a testament to the potential of cooperation across species. Challenges continued, of course. Some ships were heavily damaged or trapped in stronger gravitational pockets. Extracting these required innovative solutions, patience, and constant adaptation. At one point, a large ship showed signs of energy instability, and the human crew had to stabilize it carefully, using every tool at their disposal. The aliens responded in ways that humans could barely predict, adjusting their own systems to complement human efforts. It was a dynamic, living problem-solving process, and it pushed the crew to the limits of skill and endurance. Despite the challenges, progress was undeniable. Ships once motionless were now moving toward freedom, responding to guidance and coordinating with the fleet. Energy pulses stabilized, structural stress decreased, and the rhythm of the fleet's movement became more harmonious. The aliens were no longer trapped. They were being rescued, and they were participating in their own salvation. Amid the technical and strategic challenges, the human crew experienced moments of quiet wonder. They watched the alien ships, marveling at the intelligence and complexity of another civilization. They felt awe at the scale of the operation, relief at the progress, and a deep sense of connection with beings they had never seen. In that vast, silent expanse of space, humans understood that this mission was more than rescue. It was the beginning of a relationship built on trust, courage, and empathy. By the end of the operation for the first day, a significant portion of the fleet had been freed from the strongest gravitational zones. Signals from the aliens reflected relief, gratitude, and cautious optimism. Humans felt pride but also humility, realizing that this was not a victory in the traditional sense, it was a shared achievement. Both species had learned, adapted, and worked together, proving that cooperation could overcome even the most formidable obstacles. As the human spacecraft and alien fleet paused to stabilize, the crew reflected on the significance of the moment. They were witnesses to a first contact unlike any in history. Not a confrontation, not a trade, but a life-saving collaboration. The aliens were no longer mysterious strangers. They were intelligent beings who trusted humans to help them in a time of need. And humanity had risen to the challenge, proving that courage, empathy, and determination could extend far beyond the bounds of Earth. The night in space. The first phase of the rescue had been successful, but the hardest part was yet to come. The alien fleet had been partially freed, yet many ships were still trapped in the strongest zones of the gravitational field. The human crew knew that completing the operation would require every ounce of skill, patience, and courage they had. There was no room for error. Every decision mattered, every movement was critical, and the lives of the aliens and the success of humanity's first interstellar mission hung in the balance. The operation began early in the human crew's shift. Engineers and scientists on Earth had worked around the clock, analyzing the fleet's energy patterns and calculating the best approach for each trapped ship. Gravity stabilizers were activated, carefully calibrated to pull the ships without causing structural damage. The human crew in space followed the commands with precision, adjusting for unexpected shifts in the gravitational field, while also monitoring the alien ship's own responses. It was a delicate dance and one that required constant attention. As the crew moved the first of the remaining ships, they quickly realized just how difficult the task would be. Some ships were caught in multiple gravitational pockets at once, twisted and immobilized in a way that human engineers had never simulated. The human crew had to improvise, using stabilizers in new configurations and working in synchronization with the alien fleet's own efforts. At first, progress was slow. Every minor movement of a ship required careful calculation, communication, and patience. Despite the difficulty, the human crew felt a surge of determination. They reminded themselves why they were there. Not for glory, not for recognition, but to save lives. The alien signals reflected relief and cautious optimism. The fleet had begun to understand the humans' methods, responding with subtle adjustments that made extraction easier. It was a collaboration in its truest sense, humans guiding and assisting, aliens learning, adapting, and cooperating. Every success strengthened the bond between species. The largest ships presented the greatest challenge. One in particular, enormous in size and heavily damaged, had been caught in a powerful gravitational vortex. Stabilizers alone could not move it without risking structural collapse. The crew brainstormed, discussed, and analyzed every possible option. They combined multiple stabilizers, coordinated with alien energy systems, and carefully timed every pulse. Hours passed, each moment filled with tension and anticipation. The crew could feel the ship straining under the forces applied, and one mistake could cause irreparable damage. Finally, after meticulous adjustments, the massive ship began to move. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, it shifted position. The crew held their breath as sensors indicated that energy levels were stabilizing. The ship responded to human guidance, and alien signals reflected relief and gratitude. A collective sigh echoed through the spacecraft. It was a small victory, but a monumental one. This ship had been trapped for days, perhaps weeks, and now it was on the path to freedom. As the operation continued, the crew faced unpredictable challenges. Sudden shifts in the gravitational field caused minor emergencies. A smaller ship lost partial control, requiring immediate recalibration of the stabilizers. Another ship emitted unusual energy pulses, signaling potential damage to its life support systems. Each incident tested the crew's problem-solving skills, communication, and ability to remain calm under pressure. There was no margin for error, yet every challenge was met with determination, creativity, and cooperation. The alien fleet, for its part, became increasingly responsive. The ships adjusted their own systems, aligning with human stabilizers and following subtle cues. Signals of relief, understanding, and even gratitude became more frequent. Humans observed patterns that suggested intelligence, decision-making, and emotion within the fleet's coordination. They realized that these were not just machines. They were extensions of a civilization capable of thought, adaptation, and trust. This awareness deepened the human crew's sense of responsibility. They were not merely rescuing technology. They were saving lives, establishing trust, and bridging a gap between species. Hours turned into a long, exhausting day. The human crew worked tirelessly, taking brief moments to rest but never losing focus. The enormity of what they were doing weighed on them, yet it also inspired them. They were part of history in the making, participants in a story that would be told for generations. Each ship freed, each signal interpreted, each successful maneuver was a testament to human ingenuity, courage, and empathy. One particularly tense moment occurred when a medium-sized ship became caught in an unexpected gravitational surge. The stabilizers were not strong enough alone, and the human crew had to coordinate with Earth to redirect additional energy and adjust timing. The alien ship responded slowly, almost hesitantly, and for a moment it seemed that it might be impossible to free it. The crew held their breath, adjusting calculations and monitoring every sensor. Then slowly the ship began to shift. Gradually, steadily, it moved towards safety. Relief washed over the human crew. The alien signals reflected clear joy. The rescue, though far from complete, had succeeded once again. Throughout the operation, the human crew also had time to observe the aliens themselves. Their communication patterns, decision-making, and problem-solving abilities were remarkable. They demonstrated patience, adaptability, and a willingness to trust humans despite the unfamiliar presence. This mutual understanding, formed under pressure, became the foundation of an interstellar relationship. Humans realized that cooperation rather than command was key. When both species worked together, progress became possible even in the most challenging circumstances. The human crew also had to consider the broader mission. Every ship freed added to the complexity of the operation, requiring careful coordination to avoid collisions or energy interference. Communication with Earth was constant and updates flowed in real time. Engineers suggested adjustments, scientists recalculated variables, and the crew implemented solutions with precision. The mission was a dynamic, living process, with each moment presenting new challenges and opportunities for problem solving. Fatigue began to set in as the operation entered its later stages. The crew had been working for hours, but the stakes were too high to rest for long. Every maneuver was critical. Every ship trapped in the gravitational field represented lives at risk. Despite exhaustion, focus remained sharp, and determination never wavered. The human crew understood that perseverance was as important as technology. Their skills, patience, and courage were being tested in ways they had never imagined. As more ships were freed, the alien fleet began to move more cohesively. Energy pulses stabilized, signals became steady, and the fleet demonstrated coordination and understanding. The humans observed what felt like gratitude in the patterns of movement. Though the aliens could not speak in words, their signals carried meaning: relief, trust, and cautious optimism. Humans recognized the significance. This was not just rescue. It was the beginning of a relationship, a bond formed through shared effort and mutual reliance. The largest remaining ships required extraordinary teamwork. The human crew worked in shifts, carefully monitoring stabilizers and propulsion systems. Communication was constant, precise, and deliberate. Even small missteps could have catastrophic consequences. Each maneuver required calm judgment, quick adaptation, and close collaboration with Earth and the alien fleet. The operation tested every skill the humans had developed over months of preparation. At one point, a massive ship became partially unresponsive. Energy readings fluctuated, indicating potential structural or system stress. The human crew acted quickly, redirecting stabilizers, adjusting propulsion, and coordinating with the aliens' own systems. For several tense minutes, progress stalled. Then gradually the ship responded. Energy levels stabilized and movement resumed. The human crew allowed themselves a brief moment of relief. The alien signals reflected what humans interpreted as joy. Another life saved. Another challenge overcome. By the end of the operation, every ship had been freed from the gravitational trap. The alien fleet was no longer immobilized. Energy pulses stabilized, ships moved with confidence, and the fleet began coordinating movements independently. The human crew felt exhaustion, but also an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. They had succeeded in a mission no one had thought possible. They had crossed light years of space, made contact with an intelligent species, and saved an entire fleet from danger. The significance of the moment was not lost on the human crew. They had not simply used technology, they had built trust. They had worked alongside beings they could barely understand, guiding and assisting while allowing the aliens to participate actively in their own rescue. This partnership, forged under extraordinary circumstances, marked the beginning of a new chapter for humanity and for the aliens alike. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens celebrated the success of the mission. The human crew's courage, intelligence, and empathy were praised worldwide. More importantly, humanity had demonstrated the potential for interstellar cooperation, showing that even across unimaginable distances, intelligent species could work together to save lives. As the human crew took a moment to reflect, they felt something. The final stage of the rescue mission had arrived, and the human crew could feel the weight of history pressing on them. Every ship of the alien fleet had been freed from the gravitational trap, yet there was still one task remaining: to ensure that the fleet could move safely through space under its own power and begin its journey home. After days of continuous work, the humans had grown exhausted, but there was a shared understanding that the mission's success depended on one final effort. Precision, patience, and empathy would determine whether this extraordinary collaboration would be complete. The human crew gathered around the control systems, double-checking every reading. Sensors monitored the alien ship's energy levels, structural stability, and movement patterns. The humans had learned to recognize subtle cues in the alien signals, interpreting hesitation, concern, and even curiosity. For the first time, humans were not just rescuers. They were partners in guiding the fleet toward safety. Communication was both technical and emotional, a language of trust, collaboration, and reassurance. As the fleet prepared to leave the immediate danger zone, the humans initiated a series of coordinated maneuvers. Each ship moved cautiously, following stabilizers and guidance from the human crew. Even though the gravitational trap had been neutralized, space remained full of hazards. Tiny debris, energy fluctuations, and unexpected gravitational pockets demanded constant attention. Every adjustment had to be calculated with care, because the lives of an entire civilization were literally in their hands. The aliens responded in ways that humans could barely predict. Some ships moved hesitantly, their energy signals pulsing with caution, while others followed the humans' guidance with remarkable precision. It became clear that the fleet was learning quickly, adapting to the new conditions and responding to human assistance. This gave the crew both relief and inspiration. It was proof that collaboration, patience, and trust could achieve what once seemed impossible. As the fleet moved steadily forward, the human crew noticed subtle patterns in the alien signals, patterns that they began to interpret as gratitude. While there were no words, the repetition, rhythm, and brightness of energy pulses suggested a deep sense of relief and appreciation. Humans had never experienced communication like this, yet somehow they understood. A civilization that had been trapped, frightened, and vulnerable now trusted humanity enough to respond, to cooperate, and to show appreciation. It was an emotional breakthrough, a moment of connection that transcended distance, species, and language. The human crew took time to reflect on what had been accomplished. They had crossed light years to aid beings they had never met. They had faced fear, fatigue, and uncertainty, yet they had succeeded through courage, intelligence, and empathy. Every calculation, every stabilizer adjustment, and every pulse of communication had contributed to the survival of the fleet. Humanity had proven, in the most extraordinary way, that they could reach out across the stars and offer help where it was needed most. While the alien fleet regained confidence, humans remained vigilant. The final stages of the mission required careful monitoring to prevent accidents. Some ships had sustained minor damage, and life support systems needed stabilization. The human crew worked tirelessly, guiding ships gently, reassuring them through energy pulses and light signals, and ensuring that every movement was safe. It was a meticulous process, but progress was undeniable. The fleet was moving as a unit, gradually becoming independent of human guidance, yet still responding when necessary. As hours passed, the alien fleet began to display signs of autonomous coordination. Ships adjusted their trajectories, synchronized energy outputs, and maneuvered around potential hazards without direct human intervention. It was a remarkable display of intelligence, adaptability, and trust. The human crew watched in awe, realizing that their role had evolved from rescuer to partner, teacher, and observer. This was not just a technical achievement. It was a demonstration of interstellar diplomacy, empathy, and collaboration at the highest level. The first clear message of gratitude came as a series of complex energy pulses. The human crew interpreted them as reassurance and thanks. While the aliens did not speak in words, the rhythm, frequency, and pattern conveyed emotion, relief, trust, and appreciation. Humans responded in kind, sending back pulses of reassurance, hope, and encouragement. It was a silent dialogue, yet profoundly moving. For the first time, two intelligent civilizations were communicating not just through technology, but through mutual understanding and shared purpose. The fleet continued to move forward, slowly but steadily. Energy readings stabilized, and systems that had been under severe strain began to function normally. The human crew could sense a shift in the fleet's behavior. The fear and uncertainty that had dominated the early stages of the rescue were replaced by confidence, coordination, and even a sense of calm. The aliens were learning that humans could be trusted, and humans were learning to interpret and respond to alien signals with patience and empathy. As the mission neared completion, the human crew reflected on the lessons they had learned. The operation had not been about speed or power. It had been about observation, adaptation, and respect. Every challenge, every emergency, and every Small success had reinforced the importance of understanding and cooperation. The aliens had taught humans patience, humility, and the value of listening carefully. Humans, in turn, had demonstrated courage, intelligence, and the willingness to take risks to save lives. Together, they had achieved something extraordinary. The human crew also began to observe subtle behaviors that suggested the aliens were beginning to recognize them as individuals rather than a collective threat. Ships aligned in a pattern that mirrored the humans' movements, almost as if signaling acknowledgement or respect. There were signs of intelligence in the coordination, decision-making, and timing of actions. Humans realized that this was the first step toward establishing trust on a deeper level. It was no longer just a rescue mission. It was the foundation of interstellar friendship. Throughout the final stages, the human crew maintained constant communication with Earth. Mission control followed every development, monitoring energy levels, structural integrity, and signals from the fleet. Updates were sent in real time, and adjustments were recommended as needed. Engineers and scientists on Earth marveled at the ingenuity, courage, and dedication of the human crew, recognizing that they were witnessing history in the making. As the alien fleet moved beyond the immediate danger zone, the human crew allowed themselves a brief moment of reflection. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and exhaustion, yet they had persevered. They had built trust with a civilization they barely understood. They had saved lives on a scale humanity had never attempted before. It was a triumph of intelligence, courage, and empathy, proof that humanity could rise to challenges that once seemed insurmountable. The aliens responded with a series of intricate energy pulses, a communication pattern humans now recognized as a mixture of joy, gratitude, and recognition. The human crew sent back pulses of reassurance and hope. There was no doubt. The aliens understood that humans had risked everything to help them, and they were responding in kind. It was a moment of profound connection, a bridge built across the vastness of space, linking two civilizations through trust and shared experience. Finally, as the last ship moved safely out of the danger zone, the human crew felt a collective sense of accomplishment. The alien fleet was free. Energy pulses stabilized, systems functioned normally, and ships moved with coordination and confidence. The mission, which had begun as a daring attempt to rescue a trapped civilization, had become something far greater. Proof that empathy, courage, and intelligence could overcome fear and distance. The human crew allowed themselves a moment of celebration, but also quiet reflection. They had not just performed a technical operation, they had participated in the creation of a bond between species. The aliens had learned to trust humans, and humans had learned to understand the signals, emotions, and intentions of an entirely different civilization. It was a rare achievement, one that could change humanity's role in the universe forever. Before departing, the human crew sent one final message to the aliens, a simple, yet profound gesture of reassurance, peace, and friendship. The response came immediately, with intricate energy patterns that humans interpreted as a mixture of joy, gratitude, and recognition. It was clear that a relationship had been formed, one that could last for generations. Humanity had extended a hand across the stars, and the aliens had accepted it. As the human spacecraft began its journey home, the crew reflected on the significance of what they had accomplished. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and immense challenges. They had communicated with beings entirely unlike themselves, navigated the dangers of deep space, and saved an entire fleet from certain peril. But more than that, they had demonstrated the power of empathy, courage, and collaboration. Humanity had shown that it could rise to extraordinary challenges, not with force but with understanding. The mission was over, but its impact would last forever. Humanity had proven that even in the vastness of space, intelligence and empathy could connect civilizations. The alien fleet, once trapped and desperate, was now free, coordinated, and